Hi, and welcome to this story called Broken Trust, a Family, the Police, and a System in Question. Part 3. The Business Collapse, the License Loss, and a Family Torn Apart. By the time the marriage disintegrated beyond repair, the husband's world had come undone. His business had collapsed, his license had been stripped away, and he had spent weeks behind bars. Yet, he insists, the worst part was not the money, the prison cell, or even the stigma. It was being cut off from his children and watching a system that, in his view, punished him harshly while turning a blind eye to his wife's conduct. Banished by bail. The conditions of his bail shocked him. He was forbidden to return to his family home, forbidden to step foot in the city Cairns, except for court appearances, forbidden from coming within 1,000 meters of his house and within 100 meters of his wife. How is anyone meant to reconcile or organize the children under those rules? He asked. Forced to leave immediately, he drove 4 hours south to Townsville with no belongings. He was not even permitted to return to his home to collect clothes or personal items. In Townsville, police insisted he nominate a residence. With no options, he rented a spot at a caravan park, but even there, he said, he could not escape their shadow. Officers questioned the receptionist, raising suspicions that made him feel like an outcast. For months, he slept in a tent at that park. Rain hammered the canvas, heat suffocated the air, and shame gnawed at him daily. Eventually, he secured more permanent housing, but only after seeking formal police approval to move. It was like living under a microscope, he recalled. Every step I had to ask permission. I wasn't free. I was banished. Paying for 2 lives. Meanwhile, his financial burdens multiplied. He was still paying the mortgage and bills for the Cairns family home, where his wife and children lived. At the same time, he had to cover his own rent and food in Townsville. On top of this came mounting legal fees. Lawyers, court costs, and constant applications drained him further. For 8 months, he lived this double life, funding 2 households while barely holding his own together. Against all odds, the couple eventually reconciled. But the damage done in that period, he says, was lasting, from success to collapse. The cleaning business the husband built from scratch had once been a symbol of hope. It funded the family's lifestyle, provided stability, and gave him a sense of pride. But when his wife assumed control of operations during their separation, disaster followed. Clients reported being ignored, jobs were missed, invoices went unpaid. Within weeks, contracts that had taken years to secure were gone. She ran it into the ground almost instantly, he recalled. Months later, he was shocked to learn that she had taken his client base and relaunched under a different business name. According to him, she now advertises cleaning services in Cairns without a registered business number, ABN, and without public liability insurance, operating entirely outside legal requirements. Adding insult to injury, he alleges that she also collects a single-parent pension from the Australian government, while simultaneously pocketing undeclared cash income from her illegal business. She destroyed everything I built and now makes money on the side while claiming welfare, he said. I followed every rule. She ignores them and nothing happens. How is that fair? The garage arrest, second shock. The collapse of his business coincided with the most traumatic legal ordeal of his life, what he now calls the garage arrest. It was the second time police took him into custody. That night, the husband had returned to the family house after he was invited there by his wife earlier that day. He gained access to the house with a set of keys his wife had given him. She agreed to park the car she was driving outside of the garage so he could park inside. When the husband arrived, he parked his car neatly inside the garage, turned off the ignition, and removed the keys. The couple earlier that day had an argument on the phone after she had invited him. When he arrived, he found that his wife and children were not home. It was a setup. After locking up the vehicle, he went to the bar fridge in the corner of the garage, poured himself a vodka, and began rolling a cigarette. According to him, this was the first drink of the night. He insists he had not been drinking while driving, only afterward, safely parked inside his own home that he was still paying for. Minutes later, police arrived. One officer touched the bonnet of the car and declared it warm. On this detail alone, they accused him of drink driving, suspended his license, and placed him under arrest. There was no breath test while I was in the car, no keys in the ignition, no evidence at all, he said. Just a warm bonnet. That's not proof, that's guesswork. And it was enough to ruin me. The husband also points to the speed of police response as proof that the garage arrest was a setup. When my wife once called the police saying our house was being broken into, it took them almost 2 hours to show up, he said. I was working a night shift, and when I got the call, I left immediately. I had an hour's drive home and still made it back before the police. But the night I was in the garage, drinking after parking my car, they were there much quicker. That doesn't add up. That was a setup. 10 days in Cairns, watch house, then prison. The arrest marked the beginning of an ordeal he describes as hellish. He spent 10 days in the Cairns watch house, a facility infamous for its overcrowding and lack of comfort. It felt like time stopped, he said. Every day was the same. Every hour dragged. I thought constantly of my kids, wondering what they were being told about me. From there, he was flown 12 hours away to a prison far from Cairns, cutting him off from any chance of visits from family. He spent several weeks locked away before finally being released on bail. Rehab, that felt like prison bail, came with harsh conditions. The husband was ordered to complete a 3-month rehabilitation program, which he describes as a prison under another name. In the facility, he could not leave. Communication with the outside world was severely limited. He could barely contact his children. The financial burden was staggering, $35,000 out of his own pocket. Plus, while the husband was confined to the rehabilitation facility, another devastating blow unfolded. He later learned that his wife still had a spare set of keys to his unit in Townsville. With the help of her mother, who had flown up from Melbourne, she entered his apartment and took personal belongings, along with his car, which was parked outside the unit. Only weeks later, the husband discovered that his wife had reported that same car stolen. For him, the news was crushing. To make matters worse, while he was still in rehab, the wife allegedly received a $30,000 insurance payout for the vehicle. She kept the money entirely for herself. According to the husband, not only did she never return a cent to him, but she also failed to declare the payment to Centrelink while still collecting her single-parent pension. To him, the timing and circumstances seemed extremely suspicious. The emotional cost was worse. During those 3 months, he missed milestones that cut deeply. His son's primary school graduation, Christmas with his family, his son's first day of high school. For a father, those are moments you dream about sharing with your kids, he said quietly. Instead, I was locked away, treated like a criminal, when I have not even been convicted of anything. More betrayals. When he finally got out of rehab, he hoped for reconciliation with his children, if not with his wife. Instead, he discovered new betrayals. While he was incarcerated, the wife had allegedly been having sex with several of his ex-co-workers. She wasn't just lying to me, she was destroying what was left of my reputation by going behind my back with people I once trusted, he said. 6 months. Without his children. The deepest wound, he insists, has been the separation from his children. For 6 months, he has not seen them. The wife, he claims, has prevented contact altogether. One particularly cruel incident still haunts him. She promised that he could have the children for 1 week while she traveled to Melbourne to visit family. The husband even allowed her to use his flight voucher to pay for her trip. But instead of honoring her word, she allegedly booked extra flights with the voucher, left a day earlier than promised, and took the children with her. For 2 weeks, he says he had no idea where his children were. He contacted authorities, desperate for information, but no action was taken. I was their father. I had every right to know where they were, he said. But I was treated like a stranger. Do you know what it's like to sit at home for 2 weeks, not knowing if your kids are safe? It's unbearable. Another disturbing allegation centers on surveillance. The husband claims his wife secretly placed a tracking device on the vehicle he has in his possession now. He says this can be proven because the device is linked directly to her phone and cannot be paired with anyone else's. According to him, this was not new behavior. He alleges she has been engaging in this kind of monitoring for years, and that it continued even after he was forced to relocate to Townsville under strict bail conditions. So far, the husband has chosen not to press charges, fearing that escalating the matter further would make things worse for the family. The alleged tracking, he says, was only part of a broader pattern of intrusion. He recalls that she gained access to his Facebook and Google accounts, reviewing his search history, and even the addresses he entered into Google Maps. She would then confront him, accusing him of secretly planning to meet other women. It didn't matter if it was a business address or a mate's place, he explained. She would twist it into proof that I was cheating. I had nothing to hide, but she was always watching, always accusing. It was like I wasn't even allowed a private thought. He said, a no-contact order turned into blackmail. Adding to his torment is a no-contact order that prevents him from communicating with his wife directly. The husband says he has abided by the restriction, but alleges that his wife still contacts him and then uses it as blackmail. According to him, she makes threats that if he doesn't comply with her demands, she will call the police and have him arrested for breaching the order. She knows the system is stacked against me, he said. All she has to do is make one call, and I'm back in jail. She uses that power constantly. I live every day under the threat of going back behind bars, not because I've done anything wrong, but because she knows she can push the button. A system without balance. To the husband, these experiences paint a bleak picture of imbalance. He feels punished to the harshest extent of the law on the basis of assumption, while his wife, he claims, openly bends the rules, running an illegal business, misusing government payments, denying him access to his children, and threatening him with jail, without consequence. It's like I'm under a microscope and she's invisible, he said. I lose my business, my license, my freedom, and worst of all, my kids. And she keeps living like nothing's wrong. That's not a fair system. That's not justice. Editor's note: these are allegations and have not been independently verified. Thank you for watching, like and subscribe, because this report is far from over. Stay tuned.